Finance Committee. I'd like to call this meeting to order on January 8th, 2006. 26. Okay. Open forum. Does anyone have anything for open forum? Valerie?
Hi, everybody. Valerie, former Ian Drive. I just wanted to take this opportunity to request that the select board have staff study the trade-offs of moving annual town meeting a few weeks later, and considering that move to be consecutive weeknights instead of an all-day Saturday. The annual town access to town meeting committee looked at that a couple years ago and concluded that issues drive the attendance. So I don't predict we would see a major difference in attendance. It's possible it would be easier for staff since that was a concern noted when last year you looked at Saturday elections. And when the Access to Town Meeting Committee surveyed other towns, they found that the majority of other towns actually have Mondays in April. But most importantly, my motivation is the impact on the budget process. I know FinCom had questions due January 2nd. The school budget, gets presented in December, and it's just a really busy time of year, and I think we could get higher engagement in these types of meetings if it was 3 or 4 weeks later. And I know you all know the timing with the governor's budget, so we're just one of the earlier ones, and I think it's worth a look at. I know that the warrant closes at the end of January, so it could be possible to study in time for March. Thank you.
Thanks.
So we are getting some feedback from people online that that was hard to hear Valerie. For those of you online, is it hard to hear myself or Christina, or is it just the person in the audience? I'm just getting feedback on the chat, so thank you. Just the person in the audience. So if you're in the audience, if you could speak as loud as you can and come up. This is really the microphone that's capturing everyone. This is WCAT microphone. So if you just speak as loud as you could. Come up. Thank you.
Kristen, if we move one of those microphones, does that help, or is that still
This
CAT?
is the only one that
This
picks
is
up
the
the
only
Zoom.
Okay.
And I think it's slightly muffled just because of the projector.
Gotcha. Okay. June, did you have something for open forum?
I wanted to ask, can I ask a question in reference to what Valerie just said?
Let's wait until the select board takes that on one of their agendas and
thank you.
goes forward, but thank you. And
We were just wondering if we needed to open our
I
meeting.
don't think we need to be in session unless you, as chair, would like that to be the case.
no,
Okay.
that's fine with me. Okay. Okay, anything else for open forum? No, okay. Seeing nothing, I'm going to go on to our 7:05 agenda item, which is a review of the FY27 department budgets, and we're going to kick that off with Kristen giving us a little overview.
Dan's just going to bring up some slides that I would like to share this evening. Mike, if you wouldn't mind just clearing it actually just cleared itself. What I wanted to do this evening for the Finance Committee and members of the public is to give a brief overview of the fiscal 27 budget. It was presented before the select board, as Valerie noted, back in early December, but some of you may have not been at that meeting or would like a refresher because the holiday season was so busy. So with that, Dan, if you want to move to the next slide. So what I wanted to give an overview on is what our budget objectives are, including our strategic outcome areas, the budget challenges that we are facing, the fiscal 27 budget overview, and then you'll hear more details of each department's budgets tonight and throughout the course of January and early February. We want to remind the public of our timeline so they can stay involved. And then we have obviously a slide at the end with more information of how you can keep up to date. So our fiscal 27 budget overview, we're striving to adhere to the select board's budget policy direction that was reviewed by the Finance Committee and then ultimately approved by the select board. We're using our newly adopted strategic plan as a guide, and the select board has adopted goals related to the strategic plan that were presented. We want to continue to incorporate the good work and recommendations of the Budget Task Force report that was finalized in October of 2023, but many of those things still ring true today. And we want to recognize that we continue to face a structural deficit as our costs are increasing faster than revenue related to our Proposition 2.5 constraints. However, I'm going to be clear that this budget does not rely on a Proposition 2.5 override. I want to just remind the public that we do have 7 outcome areas that we are striving towards. I won't read them all, but you'll see the icons there, and those serve as a guide throughout the process. Regarding the overview of the budget challenges, for just general context, we had a failed override question for fiscal 25. We had fiscal 25 budget reductions, and then in fiscal 26, we had a new baseline budget that continues to create fiscal pressures. We're currently within fiscal year 26. We see that our costs are continually rising faster than our revenue growth, and fiscal 26 and 27 budgets rely on planning of use of one-time funds to maintain services, and you heard that through the school committee's discussions as well. Our challenges are townwide financial and operational pressures, public facilities and deferred maintenance needs, that economic development does require additional resources. Our technological enhancements are needed to improve our efficiency and user experience. And again, as I outlined, the school department's financial pressures are outlined in their initial budget presentation, and they've been having their budget hearings. In terms of the town-wide financial and operational pressures, we have collective bargaining contracts. We have staff professional development that has been cut to an absolute minimum. We have rising energy and utility costs. We have need for staff support for solid waste and recycling, energy management, and other efficiency efforts. That new growth continues to require additional building inspection hours. Our health insurance expenses and rising Medicare costs. We have Middlesex retirement as a liability, and we do need to maintain our OPEB funding to preserve our AAA bond rating, which does save us when we're borrowing for larger projects. In terms of public facilities, we've had deferred maintenance across town properties. You'll hear a lot more on that on Tuesday evening at the select board meeting when the final Tecton report is presented. And then we also have a need for expanded management capacity of capital and maintenance projects. That's across town and schools. In terms of technology, we need technology upgrades to improve efficiency and user experience. We're thoroughly investigating new permitting software across our enterprise. In terms of police, we had reductions in fiscal 25 of two police officer positions, and that has lowered daily patrol coverage. And we are seeing higher service demands along the Route 110 corridor, and we project to see that in the future. Similarly, fire saw reductions of 2 firefighter positions in fiscal 25. We've had Rogers Station closures since July of 2024. We have rising overtime costs to cover, and we have growing mutual aid calls due to regional strain. And you'll hear from police and fire at your next meeting. In terms of budget increases, decreases, and things that stay the same, these are very high-level slides. You'll hear more from the departments as we move through our budget hearings. We have reinstated professional development across departments to support our employees' growth, retention, and innovation. In the town manager expenses, we are allocating funds for communication and outreach tools, town meeting technology, which was formerly funded under ARPA, which has gone away, management training, travel, conferences, dues, and legal advertising. Legal advertising continues to increase across all of our departments who are required to place legal ads for certain state mandated requirements. Our compensation reserve is set at $520,000 to anticipate settlements of the 3 union contracts that are currently unsettled. In terms of technology expenses, we need to fully fund our Microsoft Office agreement as was supported under ARPA, and we have transitioned to cloud-hosted online permitting services. In the town clerk's budget, those increases are really driven by the election cycle, where we will have a state primary, a state election, our local election, and the other matters that are associated with that. We are seeing some reimbursements coming in from the state, but they are not always consistent. Additional increases that we're projecting for fiscal 27 is to fund additional services in the building department to be directly associated with the MBTA projects and expanded economic development activity that we're anticipating. We do have permitted projects in the pipeline that will be coming online in fiscal 27. Neshoba Valley Technical High School has an increase as we have additional Westford students that will be going there. Just as early as this week, we're still receiving more information from Neshoba Valley Technical High School on that enrollment, so that may change in the near future. Related to wastewater treatment, we have rising labor, regulatory, chemical, and equipment costs, and the contract has now been awarded, so that will be incorporated into the budget. And in terms of the library, that will be reopening likely January of 2027, and we will be having increased operating costs related to that project. We are looking to increase the permitting budget to fund an Economic Development Committee's request for enhanced services related to what they received under ARPA. We continue to have a flywheel moving to create that enhancement of our economic development services. We anticipate that this would be funded through the overlay account. And then budget decreases. So in the assessing department, we are reducing our contracted services as fiscal 26 reevaluation work is complete. Our legal services budget has been decreased based upon what we had seen as a supplemental need, but we may need additional services based upon things that come up and we cannot anticipate. The police department expenses are down due to their electricity savings, as well as the lower cruiser equipment costs that are coming down. And then in capital, we're proposing to pay off several small capital projects rather than permanently borrowing. And we did the same thing the last budget cycle to save some operating costs. In terms of health insurance, our rates for our increases have come down since November of 2023, where it was 15%, November of 24, 8.3%, and November of 2025, where we set the rates at 7%. And our fund balance is finally at a healthy level at, it was at 4.8 in December. We're still calculating what that is for January. And good news that our budget increase for health insurance is really only 2.1% over fiscal 26 for fiscal 27, mainly due to that healthy trust fund balance. We also, as you'll hear tonight, are implementing a hybrid pay-as-you-throw program with basic service being covered, a 35-gallon cart at no charge. Again, Mike Edwards is going to give a deeper presentation later this evening on pay-as-you-throw, but that is incorporated in the budget. And then in terms of other changes, you will see this evening that we are proposing to consolidate the Department of Public Works budget to give them more flexibility and be more in line of what other municipalities do to budget related to their public works departments. This also reduces administrative overhead and provides flexibility for unforeseen needs. So next steps in the process, we're just keep up the dates that we already had to remind people where we are. We're here January 8th, our first budget hearing. We run through February 5th. The select board is voting to close the town meeting warrant on January 27th. We anticipate state aid to be released around January 28th. And then in early February, the Neshoba Valley Technical High School budget. We continue our town meeting work and budget adjustment work through February. And then we do go into town meeting on March 28th. I did not list the meetings that you'll have here related to your recommendations on the town meeting, but we can add that in the future. And then finally, just want to close with a slide of how the public can stay involved. We do have all of the budget documents posted online. We have these hearings open and available on Zoom and in person, and we continue to provide updates and notifications through all of our platforms. So with that, I will turn it back to you.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.
So our first department up is the Recreation Enterprise. And Michelle, is that you?
That's me.
Okay, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me all right out there? Great. I've always never been told that I couldn't be heard. So welcome, Happy New Year.
Thanks. If you have a brief introduction, that's great. If not, we can jump into questions.
I
You
do
do?
have a brief introduction, if you don't mind.
Nope, go right ahead.
So I'd like to begin by reaffirming the mission of the Recreation Department to enhance the quality of life in Westford through enriching experiences that support and strengthen our community. We are proud to offer high-quality, safe services that reflect the year-round interests of our residents, delivered in a manner that is efficient, cost-effective, and inclusive. For the FY27, the total recreation enterprise budget is $1,341,526. I am pleased to report that this is the second consecutive year our budget will be fully funded without a general fund subsidy. The FY27 budget will be supported entirely through program fees and retained earnings. This achievement is driven by increased enrollment in our after-school programs, expanded summer offerings, and new vendor partnerships. As always, I remain committed to managing our expenses responsibly. Included in your packet is a detailed program analysis developed in collaboration with Dan. This document will continue to serve as a valuable tool for monitoring both expenses and revenue moving forward. Looking ahead to FY27, I would like to highlight a few key goals of mine. Enhancing recreational opportunities for all generations. To support this effort, a new special events budget line of $10,000 has been added to the FY27 enterprise budget. These funds will strengthen our ability to host community events and collaborate with other departments and the Road and Bush Community Center. Improving departmental efficiencies. We are working with our registration software provider, MyRec, to streamline the after-school registration process. This enhancement will free valuable time, staff time for other essential responsibilities. Expanding high-quality educational opportunities within the WPC after-school enrichment program. Families, whether working or at home, continue to seek programs that support their children's cultural, educational, and social growth. Our new offerings in Spanish, French, coding, and music are all important steps towards meeting this need. These are only a few of the goals I have highlighted, but the staff at the Westford Recreation Department remains dedicated to finding new and meaningful ways to engage the community. I appreciate your time and now happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Michelle. I'll start with the board members. If anybody has questions for Michelle? No? Nate?
Thanks so much. Thank you, Michelle, and for your answering the questions I had asked about specifically about the after-school program. And I just want to be sure I'm understanding this correctly. So one of the questions I had asked was what the cost, the revenue versus the expense of the recreation enterprise was for the recreation enterprise for the WPC program explicitly. And the answer was, came from you, Dan, actually. So it said that for FY25, $647,000 was expended to the program, and the revenue totaled $700,000. So this is multiple years in a row now, I think, that we've sort of been at a spot where the WPC program is floating huge majority of the enterprise, and then some beyond that. And I'm just wondering if there's been any conversations or considerations about thinking about the balance of that and putting it on those parents for the other programs and versus spreading it out across other recreation department areas.
So it's a great question, but the allocation, like we have a lot of overhead costs, including management and indirect costs. So I think the most important thing is that the programs are covering their direct costs, and then sort of the allocation is based off revenue. So it could be allocated different ways too. So it's kind of just to give a uniform sense of sort of what the programs cost. So
I had assumed that the 647 was inclusive of any indirect costs.
Yes. Yeah, all overhead as well. Yep.
So that's about a $53,000, 52 and change differentiation between what's being collected versus needed to support the program.
Correct. And last year, it did turn a profit of the $53,000. Okay. So where it hasn't been profitable in years before, okay, which requires a subsidy.
So is the goal in the long run that we're going to continue to grow that, or is the goal that we'll try and balance that out with other programs? I mean, obviously, we want our enterprise accounts to be healthy, but at what point I'm thinking of the balance of where it's being supported from parents of WPC for the other costs that are coming out of the recreation department.
It's a great question, but I think that the Rec Commission looks at those rates every year when they set those rates. So we'll provide updated information, and they can make the call on that based on the market with the other competitors in town as well.
If I may,
Go ahead.
so as my position as chair of the Park and Rec Commission, as Dan just stated, we do annually review the rates for that particular program as well as all the other programs that the department offers, and we try to set those rates so they're competitive to other after-school programming and care opportunities in the community, right? One of the challenges would be if we did try to change how that structure works today, is we would have to probably pull from the general fund to cover some other programming or things like the waterfront operations to cover that. So you certainly can make the argument, should WPC after-school programs be contributing in excess of what they cost, and should that money be going towards covering the beachfront operations? That's certainly valid, certainly something the commission could look at. How much we could play with those rates to kind of narrow that in, it would be, I think, a little bit challenging. I mean, we're pretty close, as you heard. It's not like hundreds and hundreds of thousands, but
Yeah.
we can certainly take a look at that going forward.
Yeah, that's hugely helpful, and I'm just more pointing it out that it's been a couple years in a row, and sort of, I think this has gotten a little bigger this year than last year's excess, and just thinking about it from a broader policy, but it sounds like the Recreation Commission is considering that, and Mr. Chairman, I would, if they would continue to think of it through that lens, I think it would be important, but I do think it's also important at the same time that the enterprise is self-sustaining and not relying on the general fund.
So we're trying to thread
that as a
needle.
primary goal, but thinking through the distribution of expenses
Exactly.
and who's bearing the costs is I guess, my point.
So in addition, I'll just kind of jump on, I had a similar question, not as specific on WPC, but just overall. First of all, Michelle, I'm thrilled that there's zero general fund subsidy for second year in a row. That's like, kudos to you, that's awesome. But there's still, and I don't have my notes in front of me, there's still anticipated to be retained earnings used to balance the budget. So I think that's kind of the next step, is to hopefully get rid of that or narrow that down. I mean, in several years, it doesn't seem like you actually end up using it, but, I just want to keep that in mind, that some of these fees may need to be looked at, right? Like, to make sure that you're covering the costs.
Again, we do look at the fees, and we do make sure that they're competitive against the marketplace. So we are very limited, because we do have substantial competition in the marketplace, to do much with those fees. Just,
Yeah, I get the competition, but at the same time, if eventually this hits the general fund, then taxpayers are supporting that, and that's where I have the issue. Like, right now, that's not happening.
Okay, yeah.
So that's great. But if that retained earnings gets whittled down and you don't have that, then it's gonna come back to the general fund. So
Agreed.
it's FYI for the future.
Yep, that's something we take into account when we're looking at this, but we have to be, we can't make them uncompetitive to the point in which people don't join the program, because that then drives revenue down even further, so.
Madam Chair, may I make a comment?
Hang on
I
one-
should have said something earlier.
Let me just go to Dan, because I think he has something to say
Sorry.
with this, and then I'll come to you.
I'll be brief, sorry.
Yeah.
Just with the retained earnings, I'm usually very cautious with, we do apply retained earnings to recreation and to the water enterprise. Just in case we have a shortfall on water, then we don't need to go back to a town meeting to appropriate more retained earnings. So it's just me being cautious, and the DOR likes to make sure that your projected revenue is less than what you received the year before. So that's the main driver of that.
Okay, that's good.
Madam Chair, my State Ethics Commission training is coming to play, and I just want to disclose for the record, I'm a customer of the WPC, and my questions on that. So, and I also want to say to Michelle, as a customer of the WPC, I'm thrilled to hear about looking at streamlining the billing process. She and I have had great conversations about that, and I think that's awesome. So,
Thank you for that disclosure.
yes.
Ari, and then I'll come.
I'm going to ask a few questions about special events.
Hang on one second. So did you have something on the fees?
Yeah, I just want to ask a
Okay.
fact question to Dan. So,
Yeah.
great question about further drawdown of retained earnings. What do you anticipate, aside from your appropriate conservatism, do you think it will be net zero to the retained earnings? Or what, has that been the trend?
I think we will build retained earnings this year based on the projection. We're about 50,000 ahead in revenue of where we were last year. And so I think we're going to add to that balance. So really, it's just caution on my part that we're applying it and we're going to regenerate it again.
Okay, so through that lens, it sounds like maybe we're directionally going the right way here.
And history does show that, but
Okay.
yeah, so it's good to know that you're being extra, yeah,
Thanks.
and we didn't just luck out. Okay, good. Go ahead, Ari.
Regarding special events, this is the first time we are seeing the charge, so there's some curiosity around. How did we come up with that $10,000 number? Is there certain calculation, or it's going to be say, let's try this number and then see what goes on?
Yeah, so this was part of how we're tying the budget to the strategic plan. So one of the strategic outcomes is to provide community events and services, primarily through the recreation department. And we feel that we'd like to put on about 4 events per year. So we're budgeting $10,000 for about 4 events. Did you or Michelle want to add to that?
No, that's about right. It may, what we were looking at is probably 3 to 4, typically in partnership, but the hope is that we can really leverage some of those outside partnerships to keep that number down, but we did want to have the budget there in case. That would be potentially used for police details, other staff, overtime to participate in those things. But as we had with the Monster Mash program that we did, it was hugely successful. We had very little cost, if much of any, outside of some existing budgets that we had access to.
So there's a net new expense for strategic planning and socialization aspect of it.
Yes.
And earlier, strategic planning used to be under selectmen's bucket.
So this,
We used to have that strategic plan.
we're not having a strategic plan. The strategic planning retreat is not within the select board budget. We felt that using funds for other particular items that would get more of the community involved rather than a set part of the community involved would be a better use
So
of
there's broader
funds.
community.
That is correct, yes.
And what would you see the payback of this money spent? What's the benefit?
We think community engagement, getting people involved in their community. So we can't measure it per se in terms of we're not going to make money off of these events, but we're going to have the community engaged and knowledgeable about our local government, hopefully.
So payback doesn't mean money back, but what you said is appropriate, right? We see benefit to the community by
Yes.
doing such an event.
Exactly.
Yeah, one of our collective guidances to Kristen is to be the most engaged community of our type in the Commonwealth. And these kind of events are ways to bring people in that maybe haven't been involved in local government before. So they've been successful, so we want to run on that trend.
Thank you.
I'd also like to add to, we do heavy child care, vendor programs. It would be nice for the rec department to, host a big event, and I'm excited to be able to be a part of that. Not that I don't love the children and the daycare and the summer camps and the beaches, but it gives the department a little bit more like meeting and connection to the community, which we haven't had in a long time, so.
I love that. I sent 2 kids, 8 years each to WPC.
Yeah,
So.
thank you.
And to add on to what Michelle had mentioned, I think it's not just the rec department that's going to benefit from the special events. We had very good engagement from our DPW in that, from fire, police, touch a truck kind of things. All of those departments are looking for these kinds of opportunities to get out and engage with the community. And it's a benefit to the departments, it's a benefit to the public. So we really do want to try to leverage these type of events to do something special for the town at a really low cost. And supported within the enterprise fund.
Yeah, that's great. Does anybody have anything else? I have one small little question, and it was one of the answers that sort of prompted this. So I think it's City Hall Systems, there's a 25-cent transaction fee for each of those transactions. And the answer said that it was paid for by the town. Is that really the town, or does that get charged back to the enterprise fund? Because the water department specifically said that they reimburse, or they get that charge back.
Yeah, well, it's a few $100s a year, but we're gonna charge it back to the enterprise fund.
Okay, that was the only question I had. Anyone else? All right, thank you, Michelle.
All right, thank you, everyone. You're welcome.
And next up is Library and Recreation, and we're gonna go to Library first. I think Ellen is online. Hi, Ellen.
Hi, how are you doing?
How are you? Do you
Good.
have a brief intro, or do you want us to just dive in?
Let me give you a brief intro because both FY26 and FY27 are unique years. As we prepare the FY27 budget and as it is recommended by the town manager, this budget moves us back into 50 Main Street for 1.5 year of service. At that point, we increase our hours, which were cut 10% because of the failed override, from 50 hours per week to 53 hours per week, because that's only a 1.5 year increase. We end up averaging just an 1.5 hour increase over the course of the fiscal year. None of that is additional staff. It is a portion of restored staff. The other important thing that the budget does when we move back into the new library is it allows us to have an evening custodian, which we've always had in the past, so that the level 1 meeting room can be used after hours by groups, boards, committees, and functions. It meets for the first time in 2 years the municipal appropriation requirement. We barely crest that threshold by $9,750. So while in FY25, because of the failed override, and this current year in FY26, we have been one of 8 communities in the Commonwealth requesting a waiver from the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. When we move into FY27, we will fully meet all of our certification standards, and that will no longer be the case. As of this week, actually, the Department of Revenue publishes that Westford has a population higher than 25,000, and that puts us in a different population group to meet certification standards as overseen by the Board of Library Commissioners. That's our state agency that oversees all public libraries. And this means we need to be on a 3-year track to increase up to 59 hours per week. So again, for 1/2 of FY27, we increase hours at the most minimal rate, at the most efficient cost. And then in outline years, FY28, FY29, we increase 3 hours per year in order to make that 59 hours per week. Now, the hourly increase is offset by a reduction in the percentage that we have to spend on books and materials. That percentage goes from 15% down to 13%. However, in this budget, you'll see that the town still needs to spend $240,000 on books. I'll just remind everyone, because it was such a unique year for our current fiscal year, there were major shifts in the revenue sources to pay for some of the library line items this year. Once we moved off-site into a leased facility, we no longer had gas, water, electricity, or facility and equipment maintenance. Those were 3 of our largest line items in the budget after books and materials. So for this year only, the town appropriation assumed all the cost of library books and the full cost of the Merrimack Valley Library Consortium membership fee. Now, typically, and this is what we return to in FY27, A great percentage of books and materials is paid for by the Friends of the Library, by state aid to public libraries, and 1/2 of our membership to the Merrimack Valley Library Consortium is paid for by state aid to public libraries. We must retain certification for Westford Library residents to be able to use libraries across the state, for us to be eligible for state aid, for us to be eligible for state and federal grants, and for us to maintain our construction grant. The good news in this budget is we partially restore some services. We inch up our number of hours for the public. We maintain our municipal appropriation requirement, which we have not met these past 2 years. And at the moment, we are 22% of the way through our library project with only 3.88% of our contingency funds spent, and we are still within our 550-day projected timeline. So if you think somewhere around Thanksgiving 2026 or December of 2026, we will see that project concluded. We will take a month to move back into the new library, and we will reopen with this budget.
Thank you, Ellen. Board members, any questions? Dennis?
Yeah, thank you. Hello, Ellen. I just want to ask you a question. The town manager has reported that 2027, we will be losing some one-time funds. I think it's the ARPA funds run out, or something to that effect.
End of 2026.
2026, okay.
Calendar year 2026.
You made reference to the costs regarding to gas, electric, water, and I'm assuming that these have been fairly reduced over this period of time. Do you have any estimates of how much of an increase that's going to be with a new building? How much of a draw this is going to be as far as your need to support these?
So it is projected for the half year in this next FY27 budget. So we appreciate that we had a very small use of ARPA funds. They never went toward our operating budget. We opened an all-electric building in FY27 with the exception of a full facility gas generator. That's going to be a very small draw. We have estimated a small increase in water, and we have been given an estimate of how many kilowatt hours we'll need for electricity. So we will have a highly energy efficient and insulated building. And if I open up my own, I don't know if I can share, or let me just look and I can tell you those numbers. Just 1 second. We're looking at $16,000 for electricity for half a year. So we're not anticipating any increase in gas, because we'll no longer be running 3 gas boilers, which we have in the past. And we have 1 geothermal well, which will be doing climate control for the Mary Atwood room. So the electricity is slated at, let me just open up again. I can't. I'm sorry, it was $19,000 we anticipate electricity being for half of next year.
Okay.
This is based on the electrical engineer's estimate of how many kilowatt hours we'll use.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
That's not that different from what we've spent in the past.
Are we seeing any reduction in federal money coming in for library services?
Actually, Beth, there was a freeze on federal funds from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which has just been lifted. We were not in line for any federal grants, but those federal funds did underwrite a number of programs that the Board of Library Commissioners has just begun to roll out again. They put a freeze on them for the first half of this fiscal year. I think it's important for me to remind everyone as we look at the offsets to the library project cost, which was passed at 32.5 million. The budget for the library construction grant is state funded. That money is safe. The escalation funds that were passed by the Board of Library Commissioners are state funds that are safe. We anticipate rebates at the end of the project from National Grid. Those funds are safe. We have an earmark of $100,000, almost $1 million of fundraising complete. We are able to spend the grant interest that's earned on the grant account. So at this point, we have offsets or grant income that should shave $10.2 million off the total cost. And with fundraising, that may continue to lower. So at this point, while yes, federal funds were at risk and were frozen, they have been released again. And you know, there were many libraries in the state that had Library Services and Technology Act grants, but none of our funding was dependent on that stream of revenue.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Anybody else for library? No? Okay. Thanks, Helen.
Thank you.
So Historical Commission is next. Anyone have questions? Historical Commission? Okay, we'll move on to Public Works.
Good evening, committee members, select board members. Happy to be here tonight to speak about the Public Works budgets. Obviously, Public Works is a big part of the budget. We accomplish a lot and have a lot of responsibilities, and it takes a real team effort to put the budget together. So with me tonight is a number of people that helped and will be able to help answer questions. I'd like to introduce them really quickly. Next to me is Lori Halverson, our assistant director. Behind us, we have Gulshan Kumar, our business manager, Paul Starrett, town engineer, Jeremy Downs, assistant town engineer, and Mark Warren, water superintendent. I'll just let us jump right in.
Sure. Do you have anything that you want to talk about at first, or do you want to just jump into questions?
I think we can jump right into it.
Okay, and just so that everyone's clear, we are going to move the waste collection to the end, just so that some of these people don't have to sit through everything, because Mike's going to handle that one.
I think everybody else stick around too.
Yeah.
Sorry, Barney.
So let's dive into questions. Just take all of DPW together. Anyone? Dennis?
Kyle, we get your information today regarding the truck schematic, the vehicles, and I was just wondering if you could take a few moments to go through this, explain what the significance of some of these things are, so we have an idea what the concern you have with them.
Yeah, we'd be happy to. So Lori and I had an opportunity last Friday to meet with our Public Works liaison, John Fryer, and we had a really great conversation, offered him a tour of the facility and got to really dig in deep to a lot of the items. And at one point, the conversation steered towards, the capital requests and maintaining our fleet to maintain level of services for the town. And we presented the spreadsheet piece of what was sent to you by Dan today a number of times in the past, both this committee and to the capital committee. And John very smartly said, there might be a better way to present this information that's a little easier to digest. And he offered the graphical kind of view of this as a suggestion. So Lori, over the past week, put in the work to develop this. And so basically, it's a companion to the tabular spreadsheet that has the more granular numbered information. And pictorially, what it shows is for each of our major fleet pieces of equipment, which is our 10-wheel dump trucks, our 6-wheel dump trucks, and our 1-ton dump truck fleet, which is the real core of our winter maintenance program. Graphically, it shows the green bars are the expected life of each vehicle from the date we purchased it to the end of its expected useful life, which you can see in column 4 on this sheet. Many of them are 12 years. The sign truck is 18 years, and there's some variation there. And then the red bars are the vehicles that are beyond useful life and how many years of life we've had out of the beyond the useful life that we're still carrying. And the idea was to draw a more simple view as to the challenges we've faced in our equipment replacement program. I am happy to report, I didn't get it up on our Facebook page just yet, but we did receive our first new 6-wheel dump truck Tuesday, our first new truck since 2000. Sorry, 2020. Yeah, not that long ago. It feels like that long ago, but since 2020. So we're happy to have that join our fleet, and we do still expect the other 4 that have been approved over the last 3 fiscal years to arrive sometime this winter into the spring.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah. So are you still, I know that we've had this discussion with the fire department. I'm wondering if it affects you as well. Are you having, you obviously alluded to it, are you having problems in promptness of the deliveries of these vehicles when you purchase them?
We are, yeah. The problem really started with COVID. The chip shortage was what initially drove the issues. At this point, the cabin chassis portion of the truck, we can get those fairly readily. Within 3 to 6 months, we get the cabin chassis. The big delay is in the vehicle upfit, putting the dump bodies on, the spreader bodies, all the sophisticated add-on equipment that makes a truck useful for public works. And there's still kind of a lag from the COVID years where there aren't many vendors that do the body upfits. And with the COVID delay, they had a period where they had no work because there were no trucks coming. Now they've got all the trucks readily coming, but there's us and 350 other municipalities in Massachusetts, plus Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire. We're all trying to use the same vendor to get these upfits going, and it's just taking an excruciatingly long.
Who is the vendor you use generally?
So for the 5 trucks we have ordered, our cabin chassis vendors are Allegiance and Taylor & Lloyd. The vendors who are doing the upfits are Madigan and Donovan.
The other question is, your predecessor had came in and explained to us several times that the materials that the chassis and even the engines are being made out of were not really holding up very well. Is that still an issue with these things? I mean, like,
I guess based on all the red on the chart, I wouldn't necessarily concur with that.
Yeah.
The mechanics we have, the 2 mechanics we have, and our whole staff do a really good job of washing the trucks after every storm. And you can see we have, our winter trucks are really, the useful life is predicted at 12 years. But we have trucks back to 1999, we're still running. So I would say, if there's any material differences in the trucks themselves, we're working through it. I will say there was a period not too long ago where a lot of the newer trucks, we were having issues with the turbos in the trucks, and those are expensive repairs because our truck fleet is fairly old. We haven't experienced that problem. Perhaps we will when we start getting some of the new trucks, but hopefully the trucks have worked through those issues over the past few years. But no, we don't see a large issue with the.
So my last question is, on this list that you have here, can you indicate to us which one of these are going to be your top priorities for this capital cycle? Which ones are you Are these vehicles, are you looking for any replacements in these vehicles that you're identifying here?
We are. I'll let Lori answer that question.
Yes, so we were, for this upcoming capital, we're looking at replacing our excavator, one 6-wheel dump truck, and a loader. So the loader and the excavator aren't on this graphic. Those were just more our winter maintenance fleet. Our loader is a 2000 loader. Our excavator is a 2013. And the dump truck that's going to be replaced would be 55, unit 55, which is a 2004.
Any idea what the cost on each of those three are? How much they cost?
Altogether, I think we're asking for about 900,000.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what the, this chart was extremely helpful in sort of visualizing your overall, and you can see all of the red. It's clearly a problem. But at the same time, when you go back to the 2008 to 2014 period, we had a lot less trucks in operation. And so I'm trying to understand, by my count, there was, if we just look at the 6-wheel dump truck, for example, there were 7 in operation during that period. Now I count a total of 17 trucks with only 6 in the green. What is, so clearly they're on borrowed time, but what is the sweet spot? This seems like we have an excessive number of trucks now compared to where we were just 10, 11 years ago. Or maybe we were so woefully under-trucked, if that's a word, at that point in time. I'm just trying to understand, where's the sweet spot? Like, is there a number of, we need to be at this number? Take the 6-wheel dump, for example. You know, it just seems like trying to understand what you think the actual needs are to be efficient.
So I can answer that a different way, I think. I'm at sort of a disadvantage because I wasn't here then, and I don't know how many trucks we actually had then.
I'm just going off the chart here.
So this doesn't show the trucks that were disposed of after they ended life. So you don't know how many trucks we had in,
I see.
in 2000.
And that's why
this only shows the ones that, the bars are only showing the ones.
Yeah.
Well, I assumed that wasn't true because some of the bars ended down below. So that's why I thought that.
So let me answer it this way, Nate. So for us to provide the level of service that we currently do, we have 27 plow routes, which means you need 27 vehicles to accomplish that task. And you'll notice we do not have 27 vehicles, which is why we rely partly on our water folks. We rely on contractors. So the sweet spot is whatever we can scramble together to cover 27 plow routes.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
So where does this expected end of life coming from? Is it from the manufacturer?
No, it's many, many years ago. In my previous community, one of the first tasks I did, we had a robust fleet maintenance program for many years, even before I got there. Being kind of a spreadsheet geek, I took all that data and did, I think, a fairly comprehensive view of maintenance costs over time, and of course, the maintenance costs over time go up. I plotted that against the capital cost of a vehicle, kind of on a straight line depreciation kind of line. And the sweet spot, time and again, was about 10 years. But our fleet at that time was stored outside. So given that we store our fleet inside, and so we don't have those additional pressures on, needing block heaters to keep the trucks warm. They're not out in the rain and elements through the year. I think 12 years for us is really kind of the sweet spot. So it's based on kind of analytical data for this kind of fleet. And if you ask folks around other communities, I think the Budget Task Force did a little study on that and kind of talked to other municipalities. They're all in the 10 or 12 year range from their studies as well.
A couple of questions about the equipment that reached into the red bar. What kind of maintenance charges do you see on the vehicles in the red bar as opposed to green bar? Like, is it like 10% more or 10% more or?
So that's data I really hope to be able to give you sometime soon.
Sure.
When I got here, we didn't have a fleet maintenance management system. We did implement that about 2 years ago. So we're still in the early stages of collecting that data. So anecdotally, I will tell you, obviously, we spend more time and effort and expense on the older trucks. I can't give you actual printed data, unfortunately. We are working hard to get to that because we're definitely want to provide that kind of data, which is not in a position to yet.
The next question is, as you get the newer fleet, are they more efficient for fuel or they're one and the same?
Do you know that?
More efficient fuel?
Yeah, fuel efficient.
I don't know.
I don't actually know that answer. Let me get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
They do come with more updated snow equipment and salt. So with the newer equipment, it has ground speed control. We have more control over the salt that we put out. So that is a helpful situation.
Any other questions?
Before you go on.
Sure.
I would like to take advantage of the opportunity to be able to question our town engineer, if it's possible.
You cannot resist that, do you?
This is kind of a sentimental moment, but I understand that this is going to be possibly your last meeting, and I just wanted to, first of all, congratulate you for the service that you've given over the years, over the many years. Now we're going to ask you the question.
Decades.
That was the soft warm-up before the hard.
Yeah, that's not warm-up. So it's been a long time since you gave this explanation, but I still get phone calls from folks every once in a while that ask me the question, Boston Road, okay? The Boston Road widening. Who was it that initiated that, and how is that being funded, if you don't mind asking?
A couple of things first. The truck question, I got to explain to you. That garage has been full since I've been here, and I was here when they built the garage, so we've always had plenty of trucks. And so to clear up the confusion, once again, we are not widening Boston Road. There's going to be a sidewalk and a bike lane, but we're also shrinking the travel lane, so in effect, we're not widening Boston Road. But it was initiated because the water department has an old service water main, and at the time, the town manager, Jody Ross, was combining public works projects, because we didn't have a public works at the time. We had a water department to go off and do their projects, and engineering would do their projects, and highway would do their projects. And so she wanted to bring them all together so that we weren't like Graniteville Road or Main Street digging it all up, and then, a year later, the water department go back and dig it up for their work, and a year later, someone will also dig it up. So we wanted to do all the digging at once. And so we looked at the opportunity while they're replacing the water main to widen, almost got me. You've been trying to trick me into that one. To improve the road and its usability for infrastructure, namely bicycles and pedestrians, but also stormwater. We had very little. The stormwater just went off the road and down the hill. So we've added a robust stormwater system. That's what brought it all together. Initially, though, the water department had some concerns about an aging pipe that was going to have to be replaced.
So the funding for that, is that done out of our general fund or our capital projects, or who's paying for it?
So we have been fortunate in the past years. It is changing going forward, but we've had a very good relationship with our regional planners and Mass DOT. When we went and met with them, Jeremy and I went to the district and sat down with them and explained, you've got part of this road, which goes up to Crown Road, is Mass DOT. We anticipated it was a Scrivener error. Somebody wrote down the wrong station number, but it's recorded, and there it is. It's the law. So they own up to Boston Road, up to Crown Road. And I suggested that if you come in and rebuild this road, put in all the state-of-the-art modern amenities, the bike lanes, the sidewalk, the curbing, drainage, then we could take it to town meeting and get it accepted. And I remember that day, the director tripped over himself getting to the file cabinet to get that paperwork going, because it's an elephant for them. They have to maintain, they have to plow up and salt and pave and do everything else. So they're gonna be very happy to let our town meeting entertain the question of acceptance when it's done.
Good question.
So the state has paid $12 million. Our investment, and Jeremy might know off the top of his head, we're in the $300,000 or $400,000 range because we pay for the design. So that's typically how it works with Mass DOT. We pay for the design, the land acquisitions, they pay for the construction.
Thank you for that explanation, and thank you for your service.
I'll just add the one caveat to that is the water department pays for the water main upgrade.
Thank you. Yes, that's a non-participating cost, so they pay for the water.
So a small note, nothing related to budget, but right around last year, my house pipe started complaining high water pressure. Does anybody around Boston Road call and complain, you guys? I had to install the water pressure reducer to get my house normally.
The man to answer that question is in the room.
The answer for that?
Thanks, Paul.
If not, we can certainly get it for you.
Yeah, so you had to install a pressure reducing valve, is that correct?
Yes.
What, are you on Boston Road?
I'm off Boston Road about 500 feet, but
Yeah,
I'm
'cause-
in here.
all right, so that whole area, town center and a large portion of Boston Road is in our high pressure zone.
Okay.
So it's not unusual that someone would have to install a pressure reducing valve. Because we pump water up into that zone, up to our Prospect Hill tank at high pressure. So it's not.
So it's expected?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. Anyone else have questions? I know we have some from people online. I'm gonna hold up just one second, but I have one question. For the maintenance revolving account for the fields, I'm just trying to get a feel for how that's used and what expenses run through there and how it's managed. Like, what if expenses are higher? Because we don't really see that. We don't see that money, right? It's all, so I'm trying to get a feel for what is paid out of that, what goes into that, what happens if your expenses are higher than what you've got in that given year, like just kind of that general.
Sure, I can speak to that. So our regular programmed field users, which are youth baseball, youth softball, soccer, lacrosse, those, and the adult programs as well, that reserve space, time and space on our athletic fields.
And are these just, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah, no
is
worries.
it Nuttingfield, Graniteville, American Legion?
Yeah. Forge,
Anything else?
W.
Forge, Jack Walsh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the primary ones. Yep,
Okay.
you've got them all.
All right.
So the users of those properties work through Michelle's department and fill out a field use permit each year, twice a year. And so those fees are set by the Park and Rec Commission, and they've been looking at those fees for probably 2 years now. And we continue to talk about that nearly every meeting. So anyway, those fees go into that revolving fund account. And what we use those funds for is all of the programmed maintenance that's not personnel services for the maintenance of the field. So our fertilizers, our seeds, mower blades, parts to keep the equipment running, the porta potties, all of those kind of things that directly support the field users of those facilities come back out of that fund. And the fund has been increasing slowly, but not overly quickly. So I think we're at kind of a good balance point where the funds coming in are actually nearly 100% supporting the programs in each fiscal year. So I think we're sort of at a good balance point because, you know, we want to provide the level of service that the users want, and we don't want to create a gigantic fund, but we also want to be protective of the unusual events should we need to support an unexpected expense.
Right, okay. But you said no labor costs go through that?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so, and those fields are primarily only used by these people, or
I wouldn't say
necessarily.
that. So they're open public spaces.
True.
So they're open to be used by anyone at any time when they're not reserved by programs.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anyone else have questions? So if we have questions online, I'll take them for, like, the Public Works section, just not waste collection and disposal at this time, we'll move that.
I don't see any hands raised on
No.
that right now.
Okay, all right. Let's keep going
I
then.
don't know if
Great.
there's anyone in the public.
Anyone here
In
in the room? Okay, I don't think so. Why don't we move on to Water Enterprise?
Sure.
Mark, I don't know if you have anything to preface. If you don't, that's fine.
Well,
That's fine.
you all know what we do.
Yeah.
We provide water 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, safe and reliable. And we're also award winning. We won 2 awards from the DEP this year, so I'm proud of it. Congratulations. Thank you. But essentially,
They're coming
yeah,
at discounts.
anything planned, so I guess we'll just take the questions.
Okay. Questions?
Really?
No? Neat.
I couldn't help but enjoy the documentary on Littleton water. And
Which one?
CCP?
The national one.
So
And
the 60 Minutes report?
yeah, the 60 Minutes. Thank you. Yeah.
Back when 60 Minutes was 60 Minutes.
I'm just curious if that's something that's a concern to our water department as well. What happened there? If precautions have already been taken, and or if there's expenses expected down the road to mitigate anything like that.
Oh, it is most definitely a concern. It's a concern of, I would say, all water departments.
Can you fill the rest of us in who missed
Oh,
that
I'll let
60
you.
minutes?
Well, I just know.
I only know what
basics.
60 Minutes told me.
Right.
Just in general, there has been some cyber attacks on water systems.
Okay.
And our systems are run off of programs that if a hacker were to get into our system, they could mess with the chemical situation. So we do have cyber protections. Mark can probably speak more clearly than I can. We also have cyber insurance through our insurance broker to deal with that. But we are all trained in terms of cybersecurity, and I'll let you speak more towards the water.
It doesn't help if they get in and do something to the water. There's no water until it gets fixed, right?
Correct. And we also have intermunicipal agreement contingency items as well, interconnections,
Exactly.
yes.
To answer your question, yes, it does keep me up at night. As Kristen mentioned, we have already taken some concrete steps to sort of harden our security. We've segregated the water department's IT infrastructure from the town's. I participated in an EPA-sponsored cybersecurity assessment, I believe it was last year. It's actually a DEP requirement now. So right now, I'm working off that report to address all the items that came up. I think we're in relatively good shape, but it is a scary thing, and it's going to be an ongoing fight. I'm never going to feel comfortable, but we have taken concrete steps, and we will continue to do so, and we will continue to harden our system.
How old is the control system?
About 20 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Too many details.
So it runs on old hardware and old operating systems, right?
No, not entirely. No.
Shh, don't give it away.
Yeah, don't worry.
Anything else? Heather?
Are you taking audience
Yeah,
questions first?
yep.
Heather Fitzpatrick, 13 Shannon. I've raised this before as a committee member, and then I looked at the answers now, but in the narrative in the budget book, it says, we expect our withdrawals to be decreased. In the past, the answer has been increased building may not increase the draw allowance. So I don't really have a question, I just want to put it out there that as we continue these big, huge, massive building projects, that we're bumping up against our water allotment. And one of the answers for more water in the narrative is for expensive workarounds and infrastructure to be built. And I just think everyone needs to remember that it's not fair for the water customers. Doesn't affect me at all, I'm on a well.
Sure.
But I feel like it's just losing sight of that. I feel like I've gone to planning, or whatever that board is, you know, there's a water study that's coming, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. I don't feel like everybody's talking to everybody, and I think that that's a real concern.
Good point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I can respond a little to that. Mark can jump in if you want. So we're keenly aware of the limits of our current permit and our proposed permit that we've not yet received. And the one thing we are fairly certain of is our withdrawal allowance in our permit is going to be decreased. We're not certain by how much. The new well, I think, was what was referenced. I just want to make sure everybody knows that project has been in our capital plan long before MVP Communities was even thought of. So that's been a planned infrastructure improvement for many, many years. It's not a direct impact to MBTA communities. And I will say that Mark and the team and I and the commissioners have had a lot of discussions since the Powers Road project was improved, now with the Regency and the other possible projects coming. We're taking a real more focused look on how we grant allocations and really taking it, trying to take it on an allocation base. Here's new customer X, here's what your allocation is going to be. That's all you get. And that way we can remain A, protective of our existing customers, but B, be able to responsibly make a decision on future customers. Do we have the capacity or do we not have the capacity? And so we'll be able to make well thought out, reasoned decisions on that.
Just to add to that real quickly, as you alluded to, we are in the renewal process. I've submitted my application to DEP. It's in their hands at this point. I don't know when I could see the permit written. It could be a couple of months, it could be 6 months. But one thing that is going to be in that permit is more stringent outdoor water use restrictions, which could have the effect of reducing water usage. How much? I just don't know. So.
And just to wrap up on that, our land use department, who staffs the planning board, and our DPW and our water departments are in very close contact. We make sure that our teams are talking and advising their respective boards or committees related to these respective projects that are coming in.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily an issue with the town. It's an issue with the state, with the DEP not talking to the legislature when they come up with MBTA zoning and don't think about how much water the communities are going to need to support the extra population units that they're going to have to build. And that seems to be the real issue.
Yeah, so to follow up on that question, which was a good question, it's a very good question. When you interact with the planning board in site plan review, they are supposed to examine the capacity for water. Will you be consultant on? They have to submit to you what their anticipated draw is going to be, and you have an opportunity to actually evaluate it to find out if you can meet it, and then render an opinion on it.
Yes, but that actually comes sort of separate of the planning board. So for a large development to connect to town water, they actually have to submit an application to the water department. We perform what's called a water impact study on their dime, and that's where we come up with a decision whether we can afford or we do have the capacity to allocate that water or not. So it's really independent of the.
It's independent, okay.
It is. All right.
So just one question. You've said that down on Powers Road they're going to get a certain allocation of water. What happens if they go beyond that? I mean, how do you stop them? Do you turn it off, or I mean?
Well, that's a good question. We have not resolved that yet.
Okay.
I will say one good thing that Mark kind of directed them towards. So for the Powers Road project, all of their external watering is provided by their own well. So they're not drawing from the public system for their outdoor watering. And that's something Mark is encouraging for all of these larger projects.
So wouldn't their own wells also draw from the Merrimack Aquifer? And do they have to get a permit for that well from, who do they have to get a permit for the well from?
It's not gonna be used for a public water source. I don't believe they have to get a permit from DEP.
They would get a permit from the Board of Health for
Right.
for that well.
But yeah, it's tricky. To be honest with you, it is in the same aquifer, but it really, I guess, depends on the type of well, how deep it is. Is it a bedrock well, for example? The wells that we use in town, they're all called overburden wells, which means they're relatively shallow.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, it's part of the same aquifer, but would not really necessarily affect us too greatly.
Okay.
So would the, like, for example, the Westford Regency, they're gonna have to refile if they redo it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And the Regency also is not considering, but they are going to use an irrigation well. At least that's what they're telling us. Which helps. The irrigation demand obviously it's a summertime, it's a seasonal issue. It's difficult to meet demand. So when these developments, do propose using the irrigation well, we consider that a positive.
Hey, what?
A positive.
Okay.
Anything else for water, Tris?
Question. So, Mark, you mentioned that the upcoming permit from DP would require an increase of water usage bans. Is that
Yes.
correct? So, how do you propose to enforce those bans? Would you expect to see in the future a need for additional personnel for enforcement purposes, or do you have enough personnel to do that type of enforcement?
We do have enough personnel, and just to clarify, I haven't seen these increased restrictions yet. I'm very confident they're going to happen, but I can't say they will happen. They most likely will, but, well, enforcement will be performed by water department personnel. This year, we actually, sent out early morning patrols, for example. You can't do that every day. There's a cost to that, it's overtime. But yeah, it's gonna be an effort by the water.
Well, that's where my question goes, right? So if we do have to be more strict about enforcement.
Correct.
Is it an increase in overtime? Will that hit your budget in future years?
It will.
Okay.
It will.
Thank you.
But since you're monitoring these sites, can't you detect by the monitoring of the usage, that the time and date?
Well, it's tricky. In some cases, yes, in some cases, no. It depends on the meter. We like to have eyes, observing what's going on. It just makes things more definitive.
Anything else for water? Anything for stormwater?
Stormwater? Yeah.
It's not specific to stormwater, but it's related to water, stormwater, and our earlier conversation on city hall systems. I had emailed with Kristen on this, but I would just ask, and the answers were in here were very helpful, but I would ask that perhaps the town manager and select board could consider in the longer term looking at the multiple online payment systems, both from a cost savings perspective as well as from a usability and convenience perspective. By my count, there's 4 that residents have to use right now to pay different things with the town. The predominant one being City Hall systems, which the 2 enterprise funds use. Unipay is used by several departments in the town hall. My Rec, we talked about earlier with the recreation department, it's used for recreation payments. And then My School Bucks is used for school payments. And as someone who's navigated all of those and considers myself pretty tech savvy, it's a lot. And it's clear now that we do see, there are small costs associated with these that add up across the board, and whether or not there's an opportunity to consider either streamlining or doing something to get better scales and efficiency would just be something I'd be interested in the long run. Nothing for this immediate budget cycle, but just something I'd request/suggest might be looked at.
Yeah, I think we could probably accomplish something in the fiscal 27 area realm if we're looking at new permitting systems across the enterprise. we're looking at our rates across the enterprise for all fees. That should be something incorporated to that project as well. So,
thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah. We're doing stormwater?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I looked at the increases in stormwater, and the overtime's gone up 121.3%. Maintenance support's going up 14%. Street sweeping's 57%. Pipe monitoring 50%. And the budget has gone up from 1.14 to 1.15. And we're subsidizing it to the tune of $600,000 a year. When this first program came in, my concern was that we would opening ourselves up to a program outside of our real control that would eventually start to drive up costs to meet these mandates. It seems to be developing that way. Now, I asked in my questions, is there anything that we can do, for example, to push back on this? I know the EPA and I think is it the EPA and the DEP that regulates this?
Our stormwater permit, the MS4 program, for 2 states in this country, New Hampshire and Massachusetts, are regulated by DEP, by EPA.
So EPA, so it's a federal issue. So I just wanted to find out, I think that we need to be a little bit more aggressive in pushing back on the mandates. Because we don't, they're generally done by bureaucrats someplace. They're coming out of here, and it's costing us a lot of money. And I also think the federal government's backed off on a lot of the EPA as far as the clean water is concerned. So we may have an opportunity to be able to temper their fervor in trying to upgrade requirements that are going to cost us a lot of money. So I just wanted to pass that on to you.
Agreed.
Okay.
I would just like to also point out that there are environmental reasons that these protections are in place. And while the fiscal health of the town is important, so too is the runoff that's caused from that, and the purpose of the funding is to offset the environmental impact. And we ought not to just overlook that on the account that perhaps the federal government is being more laxed about it because of the current climate in DC.
Well, we just want you to be good, scrupulous consumers, that's all.
Who care about the environment.
Anything else on stormwater? No? Okay.
Let me just check. I think there's a question in there.
Can I just respond quickly, partially to your question?
Absolutely.
So you noted a few of the increases. One of the bigger increases is in our disposal of street sweeping and cleaning. That's a program that we have to do. We have to clean the solids out of our catch basins to protect our streams and rivers. And we have to sweep our streets, and that's part of our MS4 permit. And we're generating more waste than we've been able to get rid of. So both disposal cost, because they go to a landfill, and the number have gone up. So that's the reason for that increase. A couple of the other increases, drainage maintenance, the personnel costs you noted, those we believe strongly are actually going to save the town money over the long run. Now that we have all of our engineering positions filled, Paul and his team have the capacity to take on more work. But with any project, there's certain specialized things, whether it's some geotechnical testing, wetland flagging, just certain specialties within the engineering world that we don't have the capability for. Those are the kind of things that we want to reach out to a consultant to support us with, but allow our team to do the rest of the design versus hiring a consultant to do the whole design, which would cost it down a lot more. Similarly, again, Paul and Jeremy and the team are working hard to differentiate projects on kind of 2 different levels. The big projects like that we have coming up on Cold Spring Road, Acton Road, et cetera, those are clearly bigger than what our highway department can handle. We just don't have the equipment to do that kind of work. But there's a lot of smaller culverts that the engineering team will go through the permitting process, the design process, and we'll be able to construct in-house and save boatloads of money over what we would have to do through the consultant design process and contracted services process. So even though there's some modest increases in those lines, the dollar values are relatively small, even though the percentages look sort of high. But in the long run, that's going to save the stormwater program a lot of money going forward.
Well, let's hope that's true, because the town manager basically stated in her statement that we're in a structural deficit, where costs are increasing faster than our revenue, and I just wanted to make sure this was one little area that I wanted to make sure, that we're keeping a real tight rein
Definitely,
on.
and that's our goal. We have a lot of really great expertise in the department, a lot of really skilled professionals. We want to take advantage of that skill and ability to produce a product at a much reduced cost.
Thanks.
A question from the public when you're ready.
Sure, go ahead.
So Valerie Young asks, could someone explain the indirect direct costs on pages 173 to 174? It's saying that the chargebacks in fiscal 26 was 91,000 and it's increasing to over 500,000 in fiscal 27.
Sure. So those are both for FY27. The costs on page 173 is a total of $630,000 and change. That's the general fund, basically offset for the stormwater enterprise. And then on page 174, stormwater also utilizes water personnel, so we have to do a charge back to water as well. So that cost for FY27 is $67,000. Looking at this page now, I think I need a better title on there, Val, so thank you, I will fix that. But we'll create some headings on there and make it a little more clear.
Anything else?
I don't see anything else.
Okay. So I think we're done with DPW. We'll go to your reserve fund transfer before you get out of the hot seat, and then we'll go back to waste collection. So this reserve fund transfer is for the Grove Street water main break, correct, Mark? Okay, do you want to just give a quick?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I'd like to request a transfer, I think, $74,513 from the water enterprise, emergency reserve to cover the costs for the November 3rd Grove Street water main break. Typically, our water main breaks don't cause as much devastation as this one did. You probably all saw the undercutting of 100 or so feet of the road. It was just a mess, and we ended up having to bring in an excavator to assist us and a company to basically repair the road, among other things. And this is a pretty sizable chunk of our infrastructure budget. So,
do we know why this was so crazy? Like why it was so?
The break itself was mundane. It was a 6-inch concrete pipe. Nothing special per se. I think it was just the location at the top of that hill, and it just undercut, the material from beneath the road, and the road collapsed. So maybe an engineer could better explain it.
I an engineer. Yes,
left.
We theorized what happened. The soils there are very, very sandy, which allows water to flow through fairly quickly. And because of the quantity of water that was coming out of the break, it stayed below the surface for a long time until the whole hill filled up and saturated the subsoils. At that point, the soils are expanding, which lifted the pavement from where its normal point. Once the breakout happened, you get that sudden crashing of that whole box of roadway, and that's why the distress looked so severe. So it was largely soil type, and because it was on a hill, as Mark said, it allowed a whole bunch of water to back up and cause a lot of force.
Some of it's a little bit. If the water had found its way out
Quicker, yeah.
Maybe would have been a different situation. We had a similar break over in Sawmill in June.
Yep.
We had a nice sinkhole, but it did not devastate the road. It was a pretty basic fix.
Are there any other questions before we vote on this? Sorry.
This happened in November, and what's happening between November until now is paid up some account and we have to refill that account, or what happened? Where did the 74,000 came to fix it in November 3rd?
So it's coming out of one of my line items in my operating budget, but it will leave a pretty sizable hole, and we have another 6 months left in the fiscal year, so that's why I would like to get that request from the reserve and just transfer those funds.
Pay back to your line item wherever you borrowed it from.
Pardon me?
The money is to pay back wherever you borrowed.
Yes, correct, yes.
Just a quick question. What preventive maintenance could be applied to these circumstances so that it could reduce the amount of these types of fractures? I'm assuming these are old fixtures, but are there any sensors or like that that could be utilized in certain key locations to identify when there's a problem that's developing?
So I'll start to answer them now. Lean on Mark for
Well,
his
I very easy
expertise.
answer.
Back to
Well, what I can say going forward, Mark recently hired in the past year a GIS coordinator, and she's doing a fantastic job. She's actually mapping the soil types versus the locations of all our breaks now, and trying to come up with some prediction correlations. And that data will be used to inform our capital plans going forward, where we need to do a project like Boston Road and replace the water mains because they're susceptible to these kind of failures.
Okay.
As far as existing infrastructure,
Well, and on top of that, we have, using this information, we've created hotspots in town that have seen multiple breaks. Obviously, something's an issue there. This particular break was not in a hotspot. It was sandwiched between two hotspots. The main itself wasn't that old. I don't want to say in the 50s. The cement is usually pretty strong,
Yeah.
but a straight pressure wave can cause havoc anywhere, really.
Curious.
Two questions. One is the $48,206. Kyle, just from your experience, is that reasonable given what the scope of the project was? I mean, make sure that you recognize when you're in an emergency, you don't have time to go out and get 6 bids and hope for the best.
Yes, you're referring to the Newport.
The Newport, yeah.
And so the beauty of that, we go out, we bid our paving program every year. All of the unit items used to do the repair were based on our bid price from this spring. So yes, it is a fair price.
Okay. And then my second question is, I noticed that in the motion it was revised down, removing the non-scheduled overtime to both the water and highway department, but not the police details. And I'm just curious what the justification of one versus the other was.
Sure, so that was my suggestion to Mark. Basically, we had some turnover in the water department, so we don't need to fund the personal services. That was the overtime. Or the police details are paid out of the expense account, and they're billed by the police department to the water department. So, thanks.
Can I just mention one
How
thing?
long, go ahead.
1 second. Go ahead.
Just not to go unnoticed, and the select board recognized this before, but in terms of public service, a remarkable response to solving that problem really quickly. You addressed all the concerns of the residents almost immediately, so we're just really grateful for the way you handled that issue. And I think we've looked at this before, but I think you handled it very responsibly and very well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ari, did you have something?
How long does this pipes typically last? Like these cement 6-inch pipes or whatever
That's a tough question to ask, to answer, sorry. We have cast iron pipes in town that are over 100 years old and in fact in pretty good shape, whereas we have the same material, cast iron pipes, in other parts of town that degraded much quicker. For example, the Kersey Circle neighborhood, those were only, 50 years old. So a lot of it depends on where it is and how it was installed. Not necessarily the material. Now what we do is we install ductile iron pipe. It's a more robust and stronger material. But even the older cement or the older cast iron can last quite a long time.
Given that they are 4 feet under the ground, right? How do you?
Five. We try to get to 5. Yeah.
I'm going to stand and measure one time.
Sure.
How do we know? Because some places it lasts for 100 years, some places last for only 50 years. They're not visible. The only way to know is when they break.
And yes, and with the data we're gathering, with our GIS system, we can see that, and we can plan. But you're right, you can't see it, and you know when they break.
Isn't there a leak detection capability?
We do
Is
have
it in
leak,
this?
yes, we do have leak detection. We can detect leaks, even if the water doesn't come to the surface. But I mean, as far as knowing the overall, is this vein gonna break in the future? Or as far as knowing what the main looks like, unless we actually dig it up and visually inspect it.
No, it's a very difficult job.
It is, yeah.
Are we ready to vote on this? I think we're.
Yeah, just a question, where's the money's coming from, our account to
No,
the?
it's the water enterprise retained earnings.
Okay, so they want to switch it, all right.
Yep, okay.
The reserve account, sorry. Not the
Reserve account, sorry.
Yep.
So can I get a motion to approve the transfer request?
So moved.
Seconded.
Second, okay, so I'm gonna do a roll call because we have John. All in favor? John?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Nate?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Sorry? I'm an aye.
Aye.
John, and that's it. Okay, so that passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Now we're on to waste collection. Sure, Arnie.
I lived over there where the water break was, and a tip of the cap to all involved. They were amazing.
Good to hear.
Truly amazing. So,
Thanks.
Thank you for all that. It was good.
You have good leadership.
Okay. So I had asked Mike to just give a quick recap of waste collection before we ask any questions, because it's kind of a big change coming down the line.
So wait till Dan gets some slides up here, but thank you for the opportunity just to speak for a few minutes on this. I will try to keep this relatively short because I know that we're probably going to ask some questions. I'd rather spend time answering the things that you haven't been able to find on our website, that you haven't been able to find on the FAQs or in the answers to the questions that we have here. So back in November, after really almost a year and a half long process on since I have been here, and then really going back several years before that, the board adopted a pay-as-you-throw program to start in July of this coming year. So the program right now that we have, I want to give just a very brief description of what we're launching in July. It is a hybrid program, so it really, what that means is it's what they call it is first unit free. So the reason that we came up with a program like that was really to be able to keep a basic level service at no cost. That basic level service is a 35-gallon automated cart that will be provided by the town with funding from a Mass DEP grant that covers about 75% of the cost of those carts. We're looking to have those rolled out in June, and basically anything that goes in that cart is free every week. That fits as near as our data can predict most people most of the time, based on both survey data, our average tonnage, surveys that we have actually done on houses during the process using the Recycling Commission volunteers. So we do feel that that provides a good solid level of basic service. Plus, this is the level of volume that the state considers a pay-as-you-throw, which makes us eligible for significant grants and then also annual recycling grants on top of that. Anything that does not fit in that cart would be in a pay-as-you-throw fee-based bag, and this is a very common practice across the state. About 150 towns have these pay-as-you-throw programs that have some component that is bag. Just about every transfer station town does as well. It's a 33-gallon bag. It's roughly the same size as what you get in the cart. Anybody who wants to see them, welcome to come by Town Hall. We have both a cart and a bag in the basement. Please don't put trash in them. You have to empty that out periodically, even with the sign. The bags will be sold for $2.75 a piece. They're going to be located at different area retailers. Typically, they wind up at convenience stores, certain gas stations, hardware stores, grocery stores. They are basically sold. We get all of the revenue from those bags. The retailers, really, it's a draw for them to be able to get people to come in. So there's no profit being made and shared with the retailers selling them. no weekly limit. We are looking at this as an opportunity to increase the level of service that we have now in terms of volume. This gives people a chance that they really don't have now in an affordable way to do larger cleanouts when they have house guests, when they have parties, things like that. Right now, we don't have the ability outside of buying a $15 bulk sticker for somebody to get rid of garbage above their limit. So this is, in our view, an increase in the service level in terms of volume and capacity. So bags can go on the ground, they can go in a container, no changes at all to the recycling program at all. Still going to be remaining unlimited, no changes with containers there. Dan, if you can jump to the next one. This slide, I think, is going to warrant some discussion and any questions you may have, but this is really what it comes down to. The program we have now, and this really goes back several years, is not sustainable. Any way you measure it, we cannot continue to run this program the way that it is. This is a 100% contracted service. We have virtually no ability to impact the cost of this short of decreasing volume of trash in tonnage terms. And really that works against the terms of the contract that we have with our incineration company, in that both increases in tonnage and an annual increase in that cost per ton. So we're already working uphill to overcome the built-in rates on a contract that was competitively procured. Looking at it for the last 10 years, our average annual increase on trash and recycling costs has been almost 6%. That's compared to the general fund at just over 3%. Again, not sustainable. If we look at the proportion of trash and recycling costs that are coming out of the general fund, that amount is increasing quite a bit as well. I know it doesn't seem like much when you look at 1.6 versus 1.85%, but you're talking about, you know, $120 million plus budget. That's a lot of money. And that is a bigger proportion every year that we have no ability to control without affecting the volume that goes into that system. So just to kind of put this in context of where we are now and some of the questions that we have heard about, well, why can't we just, you know, cut, and reduce. We've already done that. When the override did not pass in FY25, we eliminated police positions, fire positions, DPW positions, teachers, services. We did not change our trash collection at all. That was 84% of our total increase in FY25 went to support an increase in the cost of trash. So there's not much more room, and we're sacrificing other services to maintain the service at the current level, and I think that's really important for people to understand. Next slide, Dan. In building the budget for pay-as-you-throw, and again, there's lots of detail on the actual budget, so I won't bore you with a huge amount of information, but it is also important to get the projections that we have in here are very conservative. That's just the nature of the way that we budget, and that also kind of lines up with DOER's requirement for new fees that are tied to services. So we're basing our revenue projections on only 100,000 total bags. Our expenditure projections are based on $160,000 or 160,000 bags. So the reason that is because we're not really sure about the timing of when we'll see the cash flows coming out. We have to order in this current fiscal year for certain bags. People may stock up. We may run out before the end of the year, et cetera. This is all managed by the vendor, but that's why you see that discrepancy in the revenue projections versus the cost projections. So that's an important assumption to understand. The other thing that you're going to see in the budget that's not really in the 430 budget is we do have a separate request that we are going to need funding in FY26 to handle the startup costs. Now, before we launch this thing, we've got to purchase carts. Again, we're getting a Mass DEP grant of about $240. We've got to match that with a little over $110. We've got some additional startup costs related to purchasing and getting stocked up on bags. So we will have some startup costs, but we do expect that to level out over time. So we are going to be asking for $150,000 for that initial match and startup. So real quick, just a look at the budget impact. This it's not 100% clear when the way you look at it in the budget document. So we threw this one together, really, John, in response to your comments on kind of how that net impact of the revenue works. So apologize, it's a little bit small. But you can see at the top, we're projecting $275,000 in revenue. Again, that's based on 100,000 bags. We're looking down, our curbside contract does not change. We are more or less supplementing that contract slightly with a share on the bags with the contractor that's going to be collecting them, because they will also be doing the enforcement. So we're paying about a quarter a bag for the collection. So that's where you see that collection fees for pay-as-you-throw. That is an added cost to the system. We are projecting a 15% decrease in our solid waste tonnage. We do a little bit of rounding up just to be very comfortable, but we're seeing, again, that solid waste incineration rate, the actual disposal, which is our second contract, go up an estimated 2.5%. That'll obviously compound when we look at any changes in tonnages as well. So we are looking at a slight increase in tonnage on our recycling processing services, but we're expecting to see the blended value rate really remain about the same as what we projected last year, but it's still probably going to increase over what the actual is this year. We're seeing that rate tick up a bit just over the last several months.
Sorry, is that an error?
Which one?
The 38,000 under FY25 actual recycling processing services? It goes from 111 to 38 to
Nope,
140.
that is actual. So the recycling processing services, the way that works is we pay what's called a blended value rate. So that nets a cost per ton against the revenue per ton that's generated. Now, every one of those commodities that we put out, there's about a dozen of them, fluctuates with the market. So, for example, if you look back to 21 and 22, we actually made money on recycling because the bottom fell out of all of the domestic materials and the recycling market went crazy domestically. So we had fantastic prices for things. So we actually, that 5.7 number I showed you earlier would be closer to 6.5 if it wasn't for COVID, one upside, in our recycling processing services. So that's an actual number. That's how volatile that figure is.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
So we'll also have, as an added expense to this program, additional supplies and bag purchases. It's actually 72,000 is what we'd be looking at over the course of the year. Again, that is a conservative estimate, overestimating what we expect to get. We do have money, mostly because we're not entirely sure about what our actual additional cart inventory will need to be. So we have some funds set aside for additional cart purchases for the future, for anything that doesn't get picked up in that first round and covered by the Mass DEP grant. And then one of the biggest changes is we are proposing to invest some of this pay-as-you-throw revenue into expanded recycling. We really have to do that, I think, for our residents to offset the impact of pay-as-you-throw, give them additional opportunities to recycle. Had a great meeting yesterday with the Recycling Commission. We've talked about some different ways that we can expand that. But one thing I think that everybody really needs to understand, and this will lead into the next slide, is on the top, we do have this management analyst. We are proposing a position to be funded with these revenues. Now, this position is not entirely dedicated to trash and recycling, but a big portion of what they're going to do is going to be working on the launch of this program. And well, let's talk about it just here for just a second, because it is critical to kind of see that number up there. They're going to be working on this recycling program expansion. So if we actually are able to secure that position, we really have some great ideas and some good partnerships, I think, set up with the Recycling Commission to do what the residents have asked us to do in this last survey, which is really increase the frequency and the quality of the events that we have. The Recycling Commission has done a phenomenal job putting these events on. They're volunteers and they're burned out and they're pretty much at capacity. So if you'll go to the next slide, Dan, I can talk a little bit about the position and then open it up to any questions that anybody has. So we're going to be putting out a little bit lengthier memo that outlines a lot of specifics on what we expect this position to do, but I think it's important to understand what we've done in the last year and a half. So when Kristen reorganized our office, we created 2 different assistant town manager roles, not new positions, just reorganizations. The goal of my position was really to generate efficiencies and to think about how we can line up our operations with the strategic goals of the town. So over the last year and a half, that's really all I have done is try to find ways to save money. And we need a position in addition to managing the pay-as-you-throw or assisting with the management of the pay-as-you-throw to help continue those efforts. The biggest aspect of it has been on these energy efficiency projects. We have been wildly successful in what we have accomplished in the last 18 months. Almost $3.7 million worth of projects. Our out-of-pocket's $178,000 at this point from those projects. We are seeing immediate and real operating cost savings from those. The other thing that we really need this position to look at is managing our current contract. I'll be the first to say, we know we have collection issues on occasion. We know that we have the occasional miss. We have a contract that has a number of different enforcement mechanisms. We don't have the ability to track them and actually enforce liquidated damages, enforce penalties that, yeah, generate a little bit of revenue, but really bring that service up to what we have contracted for. We can't manage it. We do not have the capacity to do so. So we need the position to take that on in addition to looking at overall pay-as-you-throw. The other things the position will be doing is that process improvement. We have done a lot of things internal that we haven't done before. We moved over to online asset sales for surplus disposition. We're at about $55,000 from that program just since a little less than a year ago. Over a 7-year period, we made $24,000 doing it. So it actually is quite fun to watch these auctions go. The police cars we just replaced, our trade-in value is estimated at about $2,100. We got almost $12,000 selling those things using online auctions and actually putting effort into surplus disposition rather than taking the easy route. So we can use a new position that really does analysis and support and helps us to find, helps Dan, helps Kristen, helps our department heads find ways to save money and actually implement the recommendations of the Budget Task Force. We're not going to be able to do that if we're spending all of our time doing data entry and data gathering and low-level analytical work. We need to be really thinking outside the box and figuring out how do we make real changes in the organization. We have to have the analytical support to do that. So that's what this role is. It would report to me, it would support Dan, it would support Kristen, as well as kind of do some consultancy with our additional needs throughout the department, the other departments. So in a nutshell, that's the position. We're going to be putting out a lot more information on it in the next couple days. You'll see some social media posts that'll reference you back to a larger document that's going to be on the website. That's pretty much what I've got. Who's got questions? I know we've got probably quite a few.
Go ahead, Nate.
Well, first of all, thank you. This is hugely helpful, Mike. And I also just want to point out it's unfortunate we're in this situation, but I think we've done a good job of cutting corners or trimming costs wherever we can and squeezing as much juice out of the existing lemon as possible to then really need to look at hard choices like this, and commend you and the select board for putting a lot of thought into this. I just want to say, to me, I know there's been some public concern that's been raised on social media channels and others about the position. I actually think the position makes good sense and is a good investment for the potential long-term need for that, and that what we can get from it from an analytical perspective could pay off in the long run. There are just 3 things I wanted to ask about that I've heard in talking about this in the circles that I'm engaged in town since it's been announced. The first, and I'm guessing they've all been thoroughly thought through and have answers, but I think it would just be helpful for the Finance Committee as well. The first is, has there been consideration about increasing to weekly recycling collection? A number of people, myself included, I have 2 96-gallon toters that are completely full, plus several small bins every 2 weeks. And I know other people who end up just throwing stuff in the trash once they fill their recycling toter. So has there been a consideration on that, was question one. Question two was, instead of bags, was there ever consideration for people to buy and pay for a second cart, knowing that they have higher trash utilization because they have more people in their household, and as opposed to needing to go and get bags all the time and maybe an annual fee for a second cart. And then the third question that I thought was interesting was about enforcement versus incentives, which is that the trash company, which is the only frontline defense as our vendor on people sticking to the rules, is actually paid by tonnage. And, right?
No.
They're not, okay. Who's paid by tonnage?
We have
incinerator.
We incinerate.
The people
we have a separate, we have two contracts. One is collection, one is disposal.
So that doesn't, that doesn't.
They're actually worse off probably if they
They're
collect.
better off the less we throw away.
Okay, all right. So then there is a potential financial incentive for them to ensure that we're only supposed to collect the town cart and town overflow bags. So
No disincentives, certainly.
got it, perfect. So scratch that question and this is my misunderstanding on it. So I guess the two questions there were shortly on the weekly recycling and second carts versus being relegated to bags.
No, I think great questions. We have definitely considered the additional cart for recycling. I think this is
Additional collection.
the additional frequency, yes, stepping up the
sorry.
frequency. One of the issues that we do have is our current contract right now has that biweekly recycling collection. Before I open that particular can, I want to see where our recycling winds up. What I suspect, since we are unlimited recycling, is we will see a modest increase in recycling. Most towns that have done pay-as-you-throw don't see a huge increase in recycling. They just see a reduction overall. One of the outstanding questions that we do have out there is what do people do with their extra cart if we move to a pay-as-you-throw with your own new town-branded cart? One of the hopes is that some of those carts just become extra recycling toters. We can get by on the biweekly frequency for a little bit. I think that is something that we are going to have to look at, but that's going to require a pretty dramatic change in the contract. I don't think we want to take that step kind of right out of the gate. I've talked with the hauler about that. It's something that we're looking at, but it's also something that we think we can punt on the decision to see how the pay-as-you-throw implementation goes. The other piece I think we can punt on the decision, but we are looking at it actively, is the idea of the second cart. We did look at that as a viable option out of the gate, and one of the, well, put it this way, there's a challenge with how to manage that, whether it's a sticker, whether it's a second cart that that you buy and we get you a sticker for it. Any way you cut it, you have a variable component that has to be managed for each household. We don't have the capacity to do that. So what we are looking at, and this is something that's very clear in the materials we're putting out, is that's one of the things that this analyst position will be looking at, but we will not be able to do it, well, without cutting a lot of other stuff, without somebody that can actually manage the inventory. And I would say what is probably more attractive than the second cart would be looking at variable size carts. You want to pay a little bit extra and have a 65-gallon? Great. We'll sell you a 65-gallon. You can run that and pay a monthly fee and you're good to go. But you're talking about programs that people can move in and out of. They require active management. They require somebody to deliver, somebody to manage the inventory. We've got to have a place to put them. So it absolutely is something that I think our program is going to have to go to that. And one of the other reasons is we're going to have to move further and further towards automation, full automation at some point. The technology is not there to let that happen on a bag basis. It's in test phase right now using AI, watching the bags go in the truck and everything. I've seen the betas. They're not very good. They're not very reliable. But variable cart lets you do that. That may get us closer to full automation, which is a significant improvement in the way our routes would be run and the efficiency. But again, it requires management capacity to be able to launch a program like that.
In the carts that you're looking at, will they have RFID tags in them that if in the future we have a vendor who has the ability to? So,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, that's actually a requirement of the Mass DEP grant.
Great.
Right now, the technology isn't on the trucks, at least not on the trucks that we have under contract, and it's an expensive add. But the technology will be on the carts. really for right now, it's just for delivery purposes, and if somebody happens to filch one off somebody's driveway.
Mike, I just mentioned, so absolutely on everything you just said, just on behalf of our recycling commission colleagues who come to many of these meetings and have talked with us extensively, Plan A is really to roll out a set of programs that will help people reduce what they're putting in the waste stream. So what we would hope for is that nobody ever has to use, some people will because they've got extraordinary family size, but we'd like to minimize the number of people who need to go beyond this 35 gallon tote, and there are a lot of ways to do that. So that's we hope we're part of the investment we're making. Besides looking at how to accommodate more trash in other ways, can we redirect the trash stream?
I just wanted to comment on your, so probably about 10 years ago, when I was involved in one of the RFPs for trash and recycling, we asked for a bid for weekly recycling, and it doubled the collection costs.
Yeah. That runs counter to the cost reduction.
And you don't make that up in more recycling, especially not now, even then.
It might be helpful to learn from Chelmsford, which switched to that when they went to the same vendor that we had. They at the same time went to weekly recycling collection. I'm wondering what that's done with their tonnage.
I live in a town that has weekly. It also is a pay-as-you-throw town, but we also have limits on what we throw out on recycling. So we're limited to 165 gallon. We can pay extra and get a second cart. Recycling is not inexpensive either. On a ton basis, at least, it varies quite a bit. But again, the goal is reduce. We feel the easiest thing to do at this point is leave the current contract, keep the cost contained, doesn't add the cost, put out whatever you want for recycling. We'll pick it up.
Go ahead, John.
Just a quick question. So has any thought been given as to what residents do with their existing trash barrels that they maybe no longer need?
Yep, we're working on a solution, whether they convert them to a recycling bin, whether they use them for their pay-as-you-throw bag if they need that. We're also working on a take-back day potentially, or a recycling day. I don't know if we don't really have much more information on that, but we are definitely investigating that. It will be an option before this new program is rolled out.
Yeah, we'll do something. We just don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but we will do something.
Oh, okay. Go to Hari and then I'll go to Noel.
Couple of questions. Who pays for the new barrel?
I'm sorry?
Who pays for the new barrel?
Who bids for the new barrel?
Who pays for it?
Who pays?
For the new tote.
Well, it actually, so there's the carts in the volume that we would buy them cost about $41 a piece. We would get a grant that covers $30 of that cost. So that was that match money that we need from that initial appropriation. It winds up being, we still got to get a perfectly accurate count of the number of homes, but about 75% of it's covered with a grant.
Okay. That's good. So the second question is this change being put as modification to our trash plan or reduction of service to our trash plan?
It is not a reduction of service. We basically, you're referring to the contract that we have for collection?
No, between the town and the town residents.
So what's the sort of strategy? I don't think the strategy intent is to reduce service. I think it's to do two things. It's cost containment. It's do we want to continue to reduce services everywhere else because trash is growing faster than our levy capacity is growing, which is a reality. And then also, does it drive the right behavior? So towns that have followed these programs that Mike's outlining have actually generated less waste, which is sort of the triple win, right? It's less for the taxpayer to pay, it's less for the town, it's less to manage. So those are the two principal guidance. I don't think we're thinking of as a reduction in service in that people will still have the opportunity to dispose of all the trash and recycling that they do today.
Okay, I totally agree with everything that you said.
Yeah.
The only sticking point is today every single family owner has a right to do 232 barrels, right?
Today it is
Perfect.
so 90 gallons total.
And
Today.
after this program, they will have a right to do only 133 gallons, and you pay for remaining two.
You pay for
That's
anything
about
extra.
Or
$270 a year if they choose to throw full capacity. For the people like me, it doesn't matter because I only throw one every couple of weeks.
Yeah, so it's absolutely the case that people, just like people who use more water, just like people who use more energy, If they generate beyond the 35, which Mike has pointed out, 84% of people currently do, and we hope will grow to 90 and even higher, you're right. For the people that are generating more than that, they'll start paying incrementally. And so people who are generating more waste will end up paying a little bit more relative to their neighbors that are generating under the limit.
Thank you.
And Harry, you're not talking about astronomical numbers when you get
No,
down
I
to
know.
it. You're talking about, to get a 65-gallon equivalent every week, it's going to cost about $11 a month. And if you were to subscribe to a private garbage service that has a 65-gallon container that you pick up, once a week, you're going to pay close to $100, every couple of months for something like that. So this is a very economical program. The reason we designed it around the hybrid, the cart, and the bag is to allow people that flexibility and not take away the ability to dispose of, make their choices on disposal. We hope they choose to reduce their trash.
Absolutely.
But we want to have those options available so people can be flexible.
Noel?
I've had a common question asked of me of many residents around my neighborhood is that since Harvey took over, they have purchased Harvey trash containers. I know we did. We purchased a trash can and a recycle bin. I think it cost about $120, maybe $160. So the question is, the people who've recently purchased new trash containers through Harvey, what do they now do with these new containers? And is there any reimbursement for them for the money that they've paid for these new containers?
That's a good question, and Noel, I think that the reality is there's not going to be, we have no way to do a reimbursement for those. We are working to, like Kristen mentioned, figure out a way to help people either reuse those carts or find a free or low-cost way to turn those carts back in. We have opportunities to use the revenue for pay-as-you-throw to recycle those or otherwise find another use for them or dispose of them. But we can't entertain any kind of a program that reimburses people for costs on carts they purchased on their own.
Right, we cannot, but we could ask Harvey the question of would they be willing to reimburse the residents? Did we ask that question?
We have asked that question, and the answer is no. But we are talking with them. Yeah, they're not. Once you fill it with garbage, you're not really going to get a refund. But we are talking with them about, hey, if people don't want these, would you guys be willing just to take them back at no cost? So at least they're out of your yard. But I think what people will find is there's a need for them for overflow bags. If they happen to have them, there's a need for them for additional recycling. If you're challenged for space, we'll help you find a way to get rid of them.
Will we be able to put overflow bags in,
Absolutely.
in a trash can?
Yep.
Yes.
Matter of fact, we would.
How would it be?
Yeah, how
seen
are they
by the
going?
collector?
Yeah, would they?
You put a trash sticker on it.
No, you would put the bag in the cart. What we were asking and what we would require is that the cart be uncovered so that they can see that bag is there. Ultimately, yeah, are people going to cheat and throw a little garbage under there? Maybe, but that's going to be an enforcement issue.
And my house is we all have bear protectors on our trash cans to protect the raccoons.
So you leave them out overnight?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That right there is the easiest way to get animals in your trash if you don't want them.
Well, my place, the trash gets picked up at 6:50 a.m., so there's no way I can let that thing in the morning. It has to be overnight.
Yeah, I mean,
I did have one more question from residents around town is using the trash bags and using another trash container for the overflow bags. If they choose not to do that, does that mean that Harvey then has to get out of their trucks and pick up the extra bags?
Yes.
And use extra time picking up those bags? And is that going to delay the trash pickup?
Not any more than it does right now. They're on a manual contract right now. What our expectation is that we're going to see probably about 75% of our collections be fully automated on the trash side. There's going to be bags, and they're going to have to get out of the truck, but they're being paid to do that right now.
All right, thank you.
There is a weight limit though, right? To
On the bags, yes, 30 pounds.
Are the bags structurally sound to carry 30 pounds?
Well, the cans themselves, it's the manufacturer's limit on the can. But the bags, you put about 30 pounds. But 30 pounds is a pretty fair amount for a 33-gallon bag.
Anything else from board members?
This was hugely helpful, thank you.
After volunteering with the Recycling Commission for like 15 years, I'm thrilled to see this happening.
I do have one question. Are we looking to expand other services like composting service? I think I saw that mentioned. And what would be like the timeline for that?
Well, the Recycling Commission already does an enormous amount of work around composting. If you're talking about like a curbside program or a drop-off program, yes, we're actively looking at that. How these programs get expanded is largely going to be dependent on whether we're able to secure the position. Somebody has to manage those things. But we're about to, and should have waited for the Facebook post, but we're going to have a mattress collection program rolled out in a week or so. We are in talks right now with a food waste vendor to help them with getting a program up and running in town. But yes, really everything that's offered right now, we need to expand. Every single event that the Recycling Commission runs, just about every one of those, you guys could do 4 more of them and people would be there every single time and fill the place up. Mm-hmm. They can't manage those, not as volunteers. So how we do additional recycling moving forward is largely dependent on the success of whether or not we get this position.
Okay, so the programming we have currently is run by volunteers, and we're seeing a drop off in the volunteer engagement.
Burnout. I mean, we can maintain what we do, but to try to expand that, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll add to that, and this is, again, I think they have done a wonderful job in building these things on their own without really much help from the town. What we are seeing, though, is we're not a town of 15,000 people anymore. These things they've gotten more complicated. Even though volunteers are running them, there have been, there's demand placed on staff to help with events. We're running some of them in our facilities. And, quite frankly, they need better administrative handling of these things. We need better contracts. We need to make sure we have insurance in place for them properly. So that's the risk management component and the ability to kind of professionalize the administration side. I want to make more of these events so I can get more volunteers to just do the part that they want to do. Mm-hmm. I don't need them dealing with vendors and checking insurance certificates. That needs to fall to us. But we need the capacity to do it. And that protects the town also, because right now, I mean, that was one of the things when I really started looking at our risk management efforts and looking at these programs that we run, we're lacking in the contractual and liability protections that the town needs. And it's not realistic to expect that to be done by volunteers.
If there are no other board questions, I'll go to the audience. Diane, you're up.
Can you hear me?
I think we need to come to the mic.
I want everybody else to hear you, Diane.
Diane Wood, 122 Depot. Just want to put a plug in for the Junk in the Trunk program. We talk about the need for town and resources. I've been to 2 or 3 events participating. I'm super impressed with the few volunteers that are even needed to manage the event. And I think it was amazing to me that people were walking off with carriages full of stuff. So for those of you that may not be familiar with it, it's held about 3 times a year. All volunteers in town, no more than 4 or 5, I don't think, who just direct traffic. And people park their cars, open up their trunk, put a sheet in front of the trunk, and put out what they're trying to get rid of. And people buy anything and everything. Not buy.
They don't buy. They
people
just
pick up anything and everything.
For free.
Absolutely.
For free.
Plus, they have a commitment from a trucking.
Recycling vendors will come to
Yeah,
take the
another
rest
vendor.
of, if anything doesn't go,
So at the end of the
you don't have
day,
to go along with it.
no work, little effort on the amount of, people, especially town. No one's involved with that one, right, from in town?
Nope.
Yeah,
We're probably going to get to a point we're going to have to.
Yeah, no, the
You
recycling
guys are
commission.
taking it over now.
The recycling commission is becoming involved in that.
Yeah, I personally think it's a wonderful equal balance of, minimal resources involved, recycling, and good for the community and other communities too. They can come in and just pick up what you're trying to get rid of. So anyway, that was it.
Can you put kids back there? I'm just asking for a friend.
Anything that keeps stuff out of my
Things.
Really?
Well, the plants have been involved with.
Even, and I'll just on the junk in the trunk, that was one person who had that passion to do it. So if you don't have that person, you don't get that event.
We found that
If you
with
got a staff-
styrofoam.
Yes, exactly. Styrofoam we used to have, but the person who headed that up said, I'm done. If you have a staff person, you can do styrofoam. Right.
Hopefully I'll be quick. Ernie Price, 19 Oak Road, and Mike and I have had some conversations over the past few weeks. So one thing, just a question, Mike. So on a memo that came from yourself and Kristen, it was noted that bags allow for a more gradual transition to allow residents to address their trash. If a second card is offered and accepted, there's little incentive to fill it. I don't quite understand.
There is an incentive to fill it. Basically, the thinking there, this has been proven in a lot of towns that have rolled out like second car programs or larger car programs, is you give me a 65-gallon card, I'm going to not worry about what I put in it.
Okay.
So that's kind of the thought is, and it's again backed up with data. You get, nature hates a vacuum.
So, no, I understand. No, okay, thank you. You cleared that up. So another point was program changes should drive improvements in service delivery. The waste industry is moving towards automatic collection. Like, my question is, are we going to move away from bags because that's not automated collection at some point?
I suspect that the industry is going to force us to either move away from bags or move into a model that utilizes bags in an automated manner, like bags and carts with AI cameras on trucks. We're not there yet, but I think that's probably where it's going to go. The bottom line is the industry doesn't like pay-as-you-throw bags. They're tolerating it, but they're eventually going to force towns into trucks that measure and weigh what gets dumped and are geolocated to the house so they know exactly what the tonnage is. I don't think we're there with technology yet, but the workarounds have been second carts, they've been variable size carts. The industry is, it's moving, it's almost exclusively single operated trucks at this point. So it kind of tells you, we're having to play catch up with where the industry is.
I typically don't even put a barrel out. I maybe have, if I have one kitchen bag a week, it's a lot. And I just throw it out there, and I've never had a problem with animals. So it works, and I just want to say I am all in on this pay-as-you-throw. I do have, with some reservations. And one of them is the position, but I think you've cleared that up quite a bit.
How can I clear it up the rest of the way?
I don't know yet. So one of the things, so the position is going to be funded from the revenue gain from the bags.
Correct.
The revenue gain from the bags is not going to be in I guess I want to use the term enterprise fund. It's going to be in the general fund?
At this point, it's going to be in the general fund, but we'll do the accounting to prove that out.
Well, that will make some people nervous, I think, because there's requests for people, like certain requests for something that comes up that is a want and not a need. And I can be specific, but I don't really want to right now. You say, oh, we can find, the term comes up and it's been said, I'm sure we can find the money for that. My fear is that we could find the money from that from the pay-as-you-throw thing.
I think ultimately it's going to be up to staff to do the accounting and show the math that we are using this money to generate additional efficiencies around the general fund and around solid waste, recycling, all the other things that we're struggling to fund right now. I think we may be looking at an enterprise fund at some point in the future.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, myself, I would rather see it that way. I think there's a comfort zone for people with that, that may make this easier to swallow at town meeting.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, what we're attempting to do is reduce the general fund
No,
subsidy of the activity.
Okay. So the position, you feel, so it's gonna come from the bags, but the $80,000 is, where is the money for the benefits for that position coming from?
General fund.
From the revenue from the bags?
No, I can let Dan speak a little bit clearer to that.
Sure, so it's from the 945 budget for risk management, for like things like Medicare and stuff like that. And if the employee likes to take health insurance, they'll contribute to the health insurance trust and elect coverage.
Okay, okay. And if they're not taking health insurance, it's just a bonus for the town, evidently.
Right, and only 56% of the eligible people actually take the coverage, so there's no.
Okay.
No.
So did you ever consider that, to try and make this as a pilot program for a part-time position where it's not benefited, to see how that runs and then mold it into a full-time position?
We did, and quite frankly, I mean, the management analyst role is an ideal kind of mid-entry level position for younger, full-time professionals. I don't think we're going to get, we have tried a part-time person on some of these types of activities before, and it didn't work.
And also, our trash collection is Monday through Friday.
Yeah, true.
8 a.m. to after 4 p.m. most of the time. We need this person dedicated to those hours. That trash collection is occurring throughout the
Okay,
time.
and I have to say, since Harvey took over, I have not had one issue with them whatsoever. I think it's worked.
You know, that's great to hear. We do hear some complaints. This is a hard town to
That's just
collect
me.
garbage. No, this is a hard town to collect. There's a lot of kind of squirrely roads, but generally speaking, just looking at the numbers, their collection is very good. I mean, we have a very low complaint ratio. We have, you know, some problem streets, some problem houses, but we're working through that. I think, again, we need to be able to have the capacity to do a better job enforcing the contract. We need to help them do a good job.
But, I mean, we have to stop and consider, sorry. We have to stop and consider that 80,000 is gonna grow every year, because that person's obviously gonna expect a raise with what everybody else gets. Whether it's 2 or 3%, I mean, whatever it is.
And we're hoping that we increase our efficiencies more than that through the data analysis.
Well, I mean, this is gonna be a great way to, people to reduce. I was talking to Christina the other day, and I mean, it's small change, but I actually stopped buying orange juice in a cardboard container so I could recycle the plastic container.
Good for you.
But it's stuff like that that I think could make the program more successful.
It's the position, I'll tell you, if I'm doing my job, it's paying for itself and then some, a lot.
Okay, I'm gonna be watching this, see if you are.
Please do. If it doesn't work out, I'll be the first one to tell you.
Okay, no, and I appreciate the time that I spent with you. Thank you, everyone.
And Arnie, I know you and I talked.
Yes.
And to be completely upfront, I was 50-50 on this new position earlier in the week. Mike and I talked again the other day, and I'm there. Like, I think it is gonna pay for itself, because it's not just dealing with the trash and recycling program. It's gonna eventually deal with a lot of other things that need to be looked at and need to be tightened up.
I just think that when people see this position proposed, they're gonna look back to the previous sustainability coordinator position and say, well, when the override was defeated, that position got cut. And this is a way to slide in another position. That's what people I have spoken to have mentioned to me. And I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair thing to raise, and I can tell you there probably were a couple of pieces of that job description that should have been continued, like the energy management monitoring. Those are the pieces that we really do need to step up, the fiscal aspects of it. They will benefit the trash reduction, but this position is focused on money.
Okay. Yeah. And hopefully it's gonna support itself. It's gonna bring in more than what we're paying for that position.
I mean,
I
we're
would hope.
bringing, just doing all these energy things, we're bringing in more than it would cost this position now.
Okay, thank you. Missed the football game for this.
Yeah,
Wrapped up? Nothing online? All right. We're done with that. We'll go on to old business. It's getting late. Can we do the minutes next time? Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up and we'll do, yeah, there's some issues. All right. So I think we're gonna.
That's fine.
On that, and,
Something to defer the agenda items.
do what?
We need to do something to defer the agenda items.
I don't think so. I think Dan will do it. So I think we can, we can. Yeah. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
We'll move. Second.
Second, okay, all in favor, John, Leffers?
Aye.
Beth, Me, yes, okay.
See, we were awake.
Thank you.